The phone just did something. So, and when you don't have a community, you don't understand what's going on, or even if you do sometimes, it may take some time to integrate that experience and to be able to move through it, to be able to structure your external life in a way that is true to what you now feel. And so it's possible for people, to go through some sort of period that from the outside, from maybe their friends and family, looks like they're having a mental breakdown because they're changing things, and even become, something like homeless or something because you're no longer willing to work at that job where you recognize you're doing something that harms other people and you're feeling really harmed by it. You're no longer willing to do it. And so you say, I'm done with it, but you don't have some other option. And so that's very possible. I won't say it's like super possible. I mean, super common. I don't know anyone personally who that has happened to, but I know of people. But ultimately, I've basically, even with those sorts of situations, you hear that ultimately the person is still glad for it and wouldn't change it, because even if there's a period of time that may feel challenging, like you're now living your life true to yourself, and that's every moment, and so that just feels better. I mentioned that some of these substances can have physical side effects, and so that's something to be aware of and something to review, something to be, to do your research on. Now we know, tell me one pharmaceutical that's used for these things, for depression or anxiety or PTSD or something like that. Tell me one that doesn't have a laundry list of side effects that are very, very harmful, So be totally honest and look into psychedelics. They can have some side effects if used improperly, or if you're a person such as with Iboga where your heart is just not meant to be with it. But in general, they're nowhere near what occurs with a pharmaceutical. And you're not taking them every day. You take them, some people take them once and never again, That's what the beauty is. They're helping you to heal. They're not helping you to perpetuate. So a pharmaceutical helps you to perpetuate. These things help you to heal. So there is that. With the psychological confusion, there is the potential for thoughts of suicide. I know a large amount of people, I would say hundreds of people around the world. And then I have connected through different things, like Tim Ferriss and different groups and things like that, or many hundreds more. And of all of that, I have heard of one person who, from a third party, that, acquaintance, someone that I met at a psychedelic society, they were talking about someone that they knew, and they said that they felt that this person, after having many psychedelic experiences, they just felt disconnected from this physical world, and they felt that they needed to kill themselves, and that they did. I have had my own experience where I experienced something several years ago that was, and I would say is, to this day, the most incredible experience of my life that I've been aware of. And it was so positive and so pure and so true that when I came back from it, I didn't know how to integrate it, and I didn't know what it meant. And to get to that experience, while during the journey, I had to do certain things. I had to let go of the identity, and I got down to this place where I was aware of one thought in the mind. And I have not gotten to these places yet in meditation, but I know people who have, and so it may be a similar thing in some ways. But I was at a place where I was meditating while on the journey, and I got to this place where I was aware of one thought in the mind, and that thought was me, that I exist. It was I. That was the thought. That's probably the core thought of everyone, except for an awakened mind. And I had to let go of that thought. I didn't have to. I was at a place where I could choose to or not, but I felt lots of fear about that, because if I let go of this thought of I, then I no longer exist, and that's like I'm killing myself. And not only am I killing myself, but I'm killing everyone. I'm killing my partner who is right here. I'm killing the world, because if I no longer exist, then I can no longer experience anything else that's out there. So it was really frightening, but I did let it go. And I subsequently had this experience of non-duality that was incredible. And when I came back from that, I didn't know how to integrate it. And so over the months after, at different times, there would be this questions and this fear of, well, in that journey, to go to this place that felt more true and more real and more home than anything that I've experienced, I had to step through that fear of letting go of the I. Does that mean that this physical world, actually I'm holding on to the identity of I by living, and that I should kill myself, and this is just another test instead of in a psychedelic journey, this is a test in the physical world? And that was scary, to have that sort of question and to not have an answer from it, and to be feeling it in the core. It's not like it was a logical question. So I experienced that, I experienced that for months, and ultimately I did integrate it. I had a different sort of psychedelic journey that brought me into connection with just the incredibleness of this life, and connected with the body. I was connecting with the body in ways, and I was like, what am I so worried about, like blasting out to the cosmos in non-duality, when I'm in this body for, at that time it was like, 30, I've been in this body for 34 years, and I know nothing about it. Like the things that I'm discovering just on this journey with the body and moving and the connection and the insides and all of these things, I've been living with this body for 34 years and I know nothing about it, and it's the closest thing to me. Why am I worried about, like, going to the cosmos? And I was able to let that go, and I haven't had that concern since. But that's an example of something that is possible, Again, I don't say that it is super common, but these things are a black box. And that's why it's very important, in my opinion, to prepare yourself as much as possible, to learn, to get the logical understanding what's actually happening with the science, to understand about how these journeys often go, to have peers and more experienced people who have been there before, so you can talk to them, so you can say, hey, I'm feeling this, I'm wondering, like, am I not meant to be here? Is this some sort of test? And you can talk to these people, and they're gonna be like, I hear you, I've actually had that myself. And you're like, oh, really? I thought this is just me. Oh, this is a thing. This is a common side effect in this sort of way, and we maneuver it in this sort of way, and we do these sorts of things, get physical, get with the body, do these sorts of things. So those are some of the potential challenges, dangers. There's also, with what I shared earlier, but not to the same extent, of going homeless for a period of time, but you now see things. You now have wisdom in areas that you didn't before, and that many other people around you don't. And so you can see what feels like inanity or insanity or just harmfulness, self-sabotage, self-harm, things that harm you and others. You can see this, and for a period of time, until you evolve your social circle, and until you evolve yourself through practices like meditation to where you gain equanimity, then you may very well be surrounded by people who don't see what you see, and they don't understand it, and so they don't understand what you're talking about, so you can feel very lonely. And so for me, that occurred not just due to psychedelics, but due to this journey that I've been on, that I've been sharing. I have seen things and I have experienced things that not everyone around me has, And so to be able to communicate that about that on the same sort of frequency, it's not always possible. And so, you know, initially, for a period of time, this is something that happens on this journey. You can read about all the different people that you really respect. You know, they didn't just become the person that you expect and like everything was all roses. Like they had challenges, and a very common challenge is feeling alone for a period of time. And so you work with that, you know, and thankfully there are many other people like you on this journey, and we now have more access to them than ever before with the internet. And so it is possible to connect with people to where you don't feel alone. You just need to put intention out there, and you need to actually put some effort out there, you know. So when I began more on this journey, I went back to a city that I had been living